Take a drive out through the plain country of a summer evening, past the Amish farms, and look at the grass. Not the hay in the fields, but the plain yard grass around the houses, where the children play and the wash hangs on the line. You will notice a thing, once I point it out, and then you will not be able to stop noticing it. That grass is thick, deep green, close as a carpet, soft underfoot. And it is that way on every plain farm you pass. Now, here is what will trouble you. Not one of those families ever bought a bag of lawn fertilizer in their lives. There is no man coming round in a truck to spray it 4 times a summer. There are no little flags stuck in the yard warning the children off the chemicals. No sprinkler system running half the night. They have spent, near as makes no difference, nothing at all on that grass. And it is thicker and greener than the lawn of the fellow in town who spends $300 a year and every Saturday fighting it.
So how is that? How does the plain farm grow a carpet of grass for nothing, while a man in town pours money and poison and water on his yard and still ends up with something thin and patchy and yellow, full of crabgrass and bare spots that he is ashamed of? It is not the soil being different. It is not some Amish secret seed. It is that the plain folk understand one thing about grass that the whole lawn care business would rather you never figured out, because there is no money in it for them if you do. And it is this: a lawn is not fed from a bag. A lawn is grown from the ground up, out of living soil, and once that soil is alive and healthy, the grass grows thick and green on its own, for free, and crowds out the weeds all by itself, and needs almost nothing from you ever again.
The whole fertilizer business has it exactly backwards. They sell you a bag to feed the grass. But the old way does not feed the grass at all. The old way feeds the soil, and lets the soil feed the grass, the way it is done since before there were bags to buy. And a lawn grown that way costs you pennies, and outlasts and outgreens the bought lawn every single year. I am going to give you the whole of it today. 6 plain things the old folk do, or rather, mostly do not do, that grow a thick green lawn out of living soil for next to no money. And I'm going to tell you the honest truth about the tricks you have heard: the beer on the lawn, the Epsom salt, the dish soap tonic, and which of them do a thing, and which are pure foolishness that waste your Saturday. So come out to the yard with me, and let us talk about grass, and how the plain folk grow it so green for so little.
Now, before I get into it, let me say one quick thing. If you like the idea of getting a better result than the man who spends a fortune by spending almost nothing and working with nature instead of against her, then you have found the right channel, and I would count it a kindness if you would subscribe. That is the whole spirit of this place, an old skill every week. Now, to the grass. Let me set your expectations straight before we walk out there, so there are no hard feelings. I am not the man to teach you a putting green lawn, striped like a ball field with not a weed in a mile of it. I would not know how, and I would not want to. That is not what a plain yard is. A plain farm lawn has a clover blossom in it here and there, and a dandelion the little ones pick and blow, and it is the healthier lawn for having them, as you will see before we are done. What I am going to teach you is how to grow a thick, deep green, soft lawn that crowds out most of its own weeds and near enough takes care of itself, for almost no money at all. A lawn you enjoy instead of fight. If it is the ball field stripes you are after, there are men who will sell you that, and sell you, and sell you. But if it is a green yard your grandchildren can roll in that does not cost you a fortune, then stay with me, for that is exactly what the old way gives you. Now, to the first, and it is the root of everything, in the most literal way there is. The whole thing turns on one plain idea, and I could put it on the back of a seed packet. You do not feed the grass, you feed the ground, and the ground feeds the grass. Get hold of that,
and the rest of this video is just details. Never get hold of it, and you will be hauling home bags of fertilizer until they bury you, and wondering to the end why the yard still comes up thin.
Let me tell you what is actually going on down in the ground, because once you see it, you will never look at a bag of fertilizer the same way. Under a healthy lawn, the soil is alive. It is full of living things, earthworms, and little creatures too small to see, fungus and such. Millions of them in a handful of dirt, all busy. And what they are busy doing is this. They are taking the dead leaves and old roots and bits of thatch and slowly turning it all back into food that the grass roots can drink up. That living soil is a kitchen that never stops cooking, and it feeds your grass a slow, steady meal all season long, for free, forever. Now, here is what the bag of chemical fertilizer does, and why it is a trap. The bag gives the grass a big, sudden jolt of food, straight to the leaf, all at once. And the grass gulps it and shoots up green and fast, and you think, well, now that worked. But two things happen that they do not print on the bag. First, that fast green growth is soft and weak, and it is candy to pests and disease, and it burns out in the heat. And second, and this is the cruel part, the jolt from the bag does nothing for the living soil. In fact, the harsh salts in the chemical fertilizer, used year on year, harm the little creatures in the soil and kill them back. So the soil gets a little more dead every season, and a little less able to feed the grass on its own, and so the grass gets more and more dependent on the next bag. That is not an accident, friend. A lawn that cannot feed itself is a lawn that has to keep buying bags. It is a fine arrangement for the man selling the bags. The old way breaks that trap. The old way builds the living soil up instead of wearing it down. And a lawn on living soil does not need the bag at all. And the plainest way to feed your soil, the way that costs you not 1 cent, I am going to give you right now. And it is the very next thing. But first, understand the prize, so you know why it is worth it. A lawn grown on rich, living soil is thick, because healthy grass grows dense and sends out runners and fills itself in. And a thick lawn, this is the beautiful part, chokes out the weeds all on its own. A weed seed cannot get started where the grass is already thick, for there is no bare ground and no light for it to sprout in. So the healthy lawn weeds itself, near enough, and you never buy weed killer either. The hungry, bag-fed lawn is full of weeds precisely because it is thin and hungry, with bare patches where the crabgrass moves right in. Grow the soil, get the thick grass, and the thick grass keeps the weeds out for you. It all hangs together. It all comes back to the living soil. So let us go feed it. Here is the first way to feed your soil, and it is so simple, and it is so nearly universal a mistake that fixing it alone will change your whole lawn. And it costs you nothing. In fact, it saves you work. It is this. Stop bagging up your grass clippings and hauling them away. Leave them on the lawn. I know. For years they have told you to catch the clippings and bag them and drag them to the curb, as though a tidy lawn meant a bare one. It is exactly backwards, and here is why. Those green clippings you are hauling away are the best free fertilizer there is, and you are paying, in bags and in labor, to throw your own fertilizer in the trash. Think on what a grass clipping is. It is a piece of living green grass, full of all the very things grass is made of, the nitrogen, the minerals, all of it. When you leave those clippings lying on the lawn, they break down in a matter of days, right there, and they feed every one of those goodnesses straight back into the soil to grow the next flush of grass. The men who study these things have measured it, and they will tell you plainly, leaving your clippings on the lawn gives back about 1/4 of all the feeding your lawn needs for the whole year. 1/4 of your fertilizer, free, that you were paying to throw away. Do nothing but stop bagging, and you have cut your lawn's feeding needs by a fourth at a stroke. Now, I will answer the worry before you voice it, because everyone has heard it. Does not leaving the clippings cause thatch, that dead, spongy layer that chokes a lawn? No, it does not. And this is a plain myth, and the men who study grass have put it to rest. Thatch is not made of grass clippings. The clippings are soft and green and full of water, and they rot away in days. Thatch is made of the tougher roots and stems, and it builds up from too much chemical fertilizer and too much water, not from clippings. So leaving the clippings does not cause thatch. If anything, it feeds the very soil life that eats thatch away. That worry is exactly backwards, like so much of it. There is one plain bit of sense to it. Do not mow when the grass is soaking wet and a foot tall, and leave great wet clumps of hay lying in rows, for that can smother the grass in spots. Mow often enough that you are only ever taking off a little at a time, and those short clippings sift right down into the lawn and vanish in a few days. Mow regular, leave the clippings lie, and you are feeding your lawn for free every single time you cut it, and saving yourself the whole business of bagging and hauling. Less work and a better lawn, both out of the same doing. There is a lesson in that, if you look for it.
And there is a second free feeding, if you have got it, and it is the finest thing you can give a lawn: a thin topping of compost. If you keep a compost pile, and every plain family used to, a 1/4 inch of finished compost raked over the lawn in the spring or fall is the best food a soil can have. It is not a bag of chemical. It is living, finished, rich stuff, full of the very soil life you are trying to grow, and it feeds the ground for a year. If you make your own, it costs you nothing but the raking. Clippings left to lie, and a topping of compost, and you have fed your whole lawn for the year without spending $1. Let me pause right here in the middle for just a moment. If you are finding some use in this, there is one small thing that helps this little channel more than you would think, and it is simply to subscribe. It costs you nothing, and it takes but a second, and it is the whole of how a plain channel like this one keeps on going and reaching folks. That is all I will say on it. Now, back out to the yard, for the next one is about the one tool you already own and are almost certainly using wrong. Now, here is one where I would wager good money that most of you watching are doing the exact wrong thing, and it is costing you your lawn. And it is the easiest fix in the whole world, because it is not doing more, it is doing less. It is simply this: you are cutting your grass too short. Raise the blade and cut it high, and you will hardly believe the difference. I know the temptation. You cut it good and short, right down to the nub, so it looks tidy, and so you will not have to mow again so soon. It seems like sense. It is the single most common lawn mistake there is, and it is quietly ruining lawns all over the country. Let me tell you why. Because once you understand it, you will never scalp your lawn again. There is a plain law of the grass plant, and it is this: the roots grow down about as deep as the blades grow tall. Long grass up top means long roots down below. Short grass up top means short, shallow roots. That is the whole thing, and everything follows from it. So when you scalp your lawn down to the nub, you are not just cutting the top. You are starving the roots down to a shallow, weak little mat that cannot reach down for water or hold the plant strong. A scalped lawn has scalped roots. And a lawn with shallow roots is a lawn in trouble the moment the weather turns hot or dry, because its roots cannot reach down to the moisture deeper in the soil. It goes brown and stressed and thin, and that is when the weeds and the bare spots move in. Now cut it high, and the whole thing turns around. Most of your common lawn grasses want to be cut at 3 inches or 3.5. Tall by what most folks are used to. And when the grass stands tall, 3 things happen, all of them good, all of them free. First, the roots go deep, down where the water is, and the lawn stands green through heat and drought that would brown a scalped lawn to straw.
Second, the tall grass shades the ground. And this is the quiet miracle of it. A weed seed, your crabgrass especially, needs to see sunlight on bare, warm soil to sprout. Shade that soil with tall grass, and the weed seeds cannot get started. The tall lawn smothers the weeds in their cradle, for free, with no chemical at all. And third, the tall grass simply has more leaf to catch the sun and feed itself, so it grows thicker and greener on its own. So the plain rule the old folk followed without ever naming it: mow high and never take off more than a third of the blade at any one cutting. Set your mower up to its high notch, 3 inches or better, and leave it there. You will mow no more often than before, your lawn will be greener, deeper rooted, and near enough weed the crabgrass out for you. And it costs you not one thing. It is the single most powerful free thing you can do for a lawn, and it is done by doing less. Raise the blade. That alone will transform a struggling yard. And keep the blade on your mower sharp, for a sharp blade cuts the grass clean, and a dull one tears and bruises it, and leaves it ragged and open to disease. A man who sharpens his mower blade twice a summer has a healthier lawn than the man who never has. And that is the whole cost of it. A few minutes with a file.
Now to the water. And here again, the plain way is the opposite of what most folks do, and the plain way is both cheaper and better. Most folks who water at all water a little bit every day or every evening, a light sprinkle to keep things green. It feels like kindness to the lawn. It is quietly weakening it. Here is the truth of watering, and it is the same law as the mowing. When you sprinkle the lawn light every day, the water only ever wets the top inch of soil, and the grass, being a sensible plant, grows its roots up to where the water is, up shallow near the surface. So daily light watering trains your lawn to have shallow roots, the very thing you do not want, a lawn that is helpless the moment you stop, that must be watered forever or it browns in a day.
The old way and the right way is the opposite. You water deep and you water seldom. When you do water, you give it a good, long soak, enough to wet the soil down several inches deep, and then you leave it alone, days, until it truly needs it again. Watering deep and seldom draws the roots down deep, chasing the water, and a deep-rooted lawn is a strong lawn that can go a long dry spell on its own and stay green from the moisture held deep in the soil. About 1 inch of water a week, all at once or in 2 soakings, is the measure the old folk landed on by feel and the men of science landed on by study. If you want to know when you have put down an inch, set an empty tin can out on the grass while the sprinkler runs, and when there is an inch of water in the can, you are done. A tuna can does the job for nothing. But here is the part the lawn water business will never tell you, and it is the plainest truth of all. A healthy, deep-rooted lawn on living soil, cut high, mostly does not need you to water it at all. Through the ordinary summer, the rain is enough for it, because its deep roots reach the moisture the shallow lawn cannot. And in a real dry spell, if you do nothing, understand this, and it will save you a fortune in water and worry. Your lawn is not dying. It is sleeping. Grass is built to go brown and dormant in a drought, to sleep through the dry, and then to green right back up when the rains return. That brown lawn in August is not dead. It is resting, the way it has for 10,000 years, and it will come back. The old folk did not fret over a brown August lawn and run the well dry trying to save it. They knew it was only sleeping. Let it sleep, save your water, and welcome it back green in September. The deep-rooted lawn on living soil takes care of itself, wet year and dry. Now here is one that will sound backwards to a modern ear, for we have been taught to hate it, and it is one of the best-kept secrets of the old, plain lawn. If you want thick green grass for free, let a little clover grow in it. That low green plant with the white blossom that the bees love, that the whole lawn business has spent 50 years teaching you to poison out of your yard as a weed. It was never a weed.
It was part of how the old lawn fed itself, and calling it a weed was one of the best sales jobs ever done on the American householder. Let me tell you what clover does, for it is a small wonder. Clover is what they call a nitrogen fixer. It has the rare power to pull nitrogen right out of the very air, which is full of it, and put it down into the soil in a form the grass roots can use. Nitrogen, friend, is the exact thing in that expensive bag of fertilizer, the main thing you are paying for. And the clover makes it out of thin air and lays it in your soil for free all season long. A lawn with clover mixed through it is a lawn with its own little fertilizer factory running day and night at no charge. The old lawns and pastures always had clover in the mix, on purpose, and that is part of why they stayed so green with no bag at all. Grandfather's grass seed came with clover in it as a matter of course. It was only later that the chemical companies taught folks to see it as a weed and sold them the poison to kill it, and then sold them the bag of nitrogen to replace the very thing they had just killed. Think on that. Clover stays green when the grass goes brown in a drought, so a lawn with clover holds its color longer. Its flowers feed the honeybees, which we are all short of these days. It grows low and soft and needs little mowing, and it asks for nothing. To bring it back, you simply let the clover that tries to come already stay and stop poisoning it. Or you can buy a little white clover seed, it is cheap, and scatter it into your lawn in the spring and let it weave itself in among the grass. In a season or two, you will have a green, soft, self-feeding lawn that stays green through the dry and never saw a bag of fertilizer. Now, I will not pretend clover suits everyone, and I would not be straight with you if I did. It draws the honeybees, and if you have got little ones going barefoot in the yard, a bee in the clover is a stung heel waiting to happen, and I understand a mother not wanting that. And some of you were simply raised to want a pure grass lawn and nothing else in it, and that is your right and your yard. All I ask is that you decide it knowing the truth, that clover was never the enemy it was sold to you as. It is a gift that fed the old lawns green for free, doing the exact work you now pay a bag to do. Keep it or pull it, but pull it knowing what you are pulling. The last thing is for the lawn that is tired and hard and thin no matter what. The lawn packed down hard as a road, and it is the plain old cure for it. And then a last word on the whole spirit of the thing. If your lawn is walked on, or played on, or driven on, or if it is just old, the soil underneath gets packed down hard over the years. Squeezed tight, so tight that the air and the water and the roots can no longer move down into it. And grass cannot grow on hard-packed ground any more than a seed can grow on a road. The rain runs off it instead of soaking in. This is why so much of a tired lawn is thin. The ground beneath is simply too hard for roots to live in. The old cure is to open the ground back up, to let it breathe, and it is called aerating. And it is nothing but poking many holes down into the packed soil so the air and water and roots can get back down in. The plain folk did it with a garden fork, walking the lawn and driving the fork in deep every few inches and rocking it to crack the soil open. An afternoon's honest work for nothing but sweat. You can rent a machine that pulls little plugs of soil out and does it faster, if the lawn is large. Either way, you open that packed ground, and then you spread your 1/4 inch of compost over it, and it works down into the holes, and the whole tired lawn comes back to life over the next season, roots reaching down into ground they can finally live in. Aerate a hard lawn and top it with compost, and you have done the one big repair a tired lawn needs, and it holds for years. And here is the last word, the spirit of the whole thing, and it is the most important part. Do not go to war with your lawn. That is the modern mistake under all the others, treating the lawn as an enemy to be conquered with chemicals and machines and money, beaten into a perfect, sterile carpet. The plain folk never did that.
They kept a living green yard, clover and all, a stray dandelion and all, grown on living soil that fed itself, and they let it be what it is, a healthy, living thing, not a putting green. And it rewarded them with a thick green softness under the children's feet for near enough nothing, year on year. A lawn is not a thing you dominate. It is a small living land you keep. Keep the soil alive, cut high, let the clover in, and then let it be, and it will be greener for your leaving it alone than ever it was for your fighting it. Now there is a whole world of homemade lawn cures out there, passed hand to hand and posted about like gospel. And before you go trying any of them, I want to save you some wasted Saturdays. Pour beer on your grass, they say. Spray it with Epsom salt. Mix up dish soap and mouthwash and soda pop in a jug and hose the yard with it. I have heard every one of them, and some folks would near fight you over these recipes. So let me walk you through them the way I would for my own son. Plain, one at a time. The ones with a grain of sense in them, and the ones that are pure waste of a good afternoon.
The beer and the soda pop on the lawn.
Here is the truth. Beer has no plant food in it worth the name, no nitrogen to speak of, none of what grass actually needs to grow. What little sugar is in it feeds the soil microbes a trifle, that much is true, but so little, in such a splash, that it makes no difference you could ever see. If you fed your lawn nothing but beer, it would slowly starve. It is a waste of a good beer, friend, and you would do more for your lawn by drinking the beer yourself and leaving the clippings on the grass. Same with the soda pop. A little sugar, no real food, foolishness. The Epsom salt. This one is dressed up to sound scientific, and it fools a lot of good people, so hear me close. Epsom salt is magnesium and sulfur. Now those are real things a plant can use. I will not say they are nothing. But here is the catch they never mention. Your soil almost certainly already has plenty of both, and adding more does exactly nothing, because a plant can only use so much and no more. The men of science have tested it, and on ordinary soil the Epsom salt makes no difference at all to your grass. The only thing the Epsom salt reliably does is sell Epsom salt. Unless a proper soil test has told you your ground is actually short of magnesium, which is rare, you are sprinkling money on the grass for nothing. The dish soap in the tonic. This one has a grain of truth, so I will be fair to it. A squirt of plain soap in water does help the water soak into hard or dry ground. Breaks the surface tension, they say, so the water beads less and sinks in more. That much is real. It is a wetting agent. But it is no fertilizer. It feeds the lawn nothing. And if you use the antibacterial kind, you can actually harm the very soil life you want to grow. So a little plain soap to help water soak into a hard spot, that has some small, honest use. The whole magic tonic, the beer and soap and mouthwash and ammonia, all mixed in a sprayer as a miracle lawn cure, is a folk tale. The ammonia in it, by the way, is the harsh household kind the grass cannot even use, and can burn your lawn besides. So set the whole cupboard of tonics aside. There is nothing under your kitchen sink that grows a lawn, and no secret jug recipe, whatever your neighbor swears. What grows a thick green lawn is the 6 plain things I already gave you, and near every one is free, and comes down to doing less, not more. Feed the ground, leave the clippings, cut it high, water deep and seldom, let the clover in, open the hard soil. That is the whole of the work, and it will run you less than a single bag of the fertilizer you were about to buy. So here is the one small thing I would have you do, and I will keep it small, as I always do, for the small thing done beats the grand plan that waits for Saturday and never comes. The very next time you mow, before you start, walk over to your mower and find the lever that sets the height of the wheels, and move it up to the highest notch it has, or near it. Then take the bag off, if it has one, and leave it off. That is all. One cutting, high, with the clippings left to lie where they fall. Just the once, to feel how little it takes. You will look at that lawn a week on, standing taller and greener and shading its own roots, feeding itself with its own clippings, and you will understand in your feet everything I have told you today, and the rest will follow easy. Now I would dearly love to hear from you, as I always do, for there is a world of old knowing among you folks watching. Tell me down in the comments, what did the old people in your family do for their yard and garden, back before there was a store full of bags and sprays for it? Did your grandmother keep a clover lawn? Did your grandfather swear by leaving the clippings, or by some compost pile out back? Was there a plain trick for a green yard that has been in your family for years? Set it down below, for I read every one, and there is many a good old way I have first learned from one of you remembering it. And if you would care to walk out to the yard or the shop or the kitchen with me again next week for another of the plain old ways the world is busy forgetting, then subscribe, and you will find your way back easy. It is good to have the company. Until then, feed the soil and not the grass. Cut it high, leave the clippings lie. And remember that the greenest lawn on the road is most often the one the man spends the least fighting. The grass wants to grow, friend. Mostly, you have only to stop standing in its way. God keep you, friend. We will talk again.